Is the former or the current Broncos tight end the one you want in 2022? What NFC South receiver makes for a nice buy low in dynasty drafts? And should Treylon Burks or Drake London be higher on your 2022 pre-NFL draft boards? Plus, multiple FFPC high-stakes Dynasty Fantasy Football League winner Mike Eisenberg is going to drop by. He's going to talk about DK Metcalf, Cam Akers, and the RotoViz TriFlex Superflex Dynasty format, and much more. We've got a great show for you. Farrell Elliott is here. I'm Eric Balkman. Stick around. Your HSFF Hour starts now.
Damn the pressure, I've seen greater men than me, the lesser.
Broadcast live and heard around the world, you are now watching the most entertaining hour of radio on the planet. Welcome to the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by MyFFPC.com with your hosts Eric Balkman and Farrell Elliott. The High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour is your home for analysis from the best players in the world. And now, because no one else was available, here are Eric Balkman and Farrell Elliott.
Solace in the scripture, are we not all our father's sons? I became a man, nobody ever told me what a man was.
Thank you, Rob. Greetings and salutations, all you Bulkaholics and Farrelliacs. Welcome to the latest episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by MyFFPC.com. I'm your slightly above average host, Eric Balkman. My co-host is the definitive commissioner of fantasy football, the incomparable Farrell Elliott. Farrell, welcome in tonight. And I'm reminded as I'm watching the Bucs play the Bulls while we're doing the show tonight. I got my two-screen experience going. I'm reminded of the Bucs championship run last year. You and I were commentating and covering a pros versus Joes draft while the Milwaukee Bucks were winning their first title in 50 years. And now here we are again, Bucks, starting their trying to go back to back as best they could. But we get to talk about fantasy football, not only with each other, but with a very highly successful fantasy football player at the high stakes level as well tonight.
Well, and looking back on that Bucks win last year, I love the fact that you were in attendance, that you found a seat in that arena for that game, and your excitement level for it was fantastic. And, Balky, you're just a multi-sport fan and a grand guy. What else can you say?
Yeah, thank you. You are way too guy. Farrell Elliott, the nicest man in the business. Coming up on tonight's show, we're going to get into a potential rise in 2022 for Rashad Bateman. We're going to talk about what you need to be doing with Deebo Samuel in your dynasty drafts, and quite frankly, how you should be handling them in the best ball tournament as well as the KFFSC drafts that are going on. And of course, Mike Eisenberg is going to come by to talk a little bit about his dynasty wins he's had, including at the RotoViz TriFlex Superflex level, the 1250 level with the FFPC. We're going to talk a little bit about, from a dynasty perspective, Josh Jacobs, Antonio Gibson, and much more. If you want to connect with us on Twitter, we are at HSFF Hour. I'm at Eric Balkman. You can always check out Farrell's Kentucky Fantasy Football State Championship at KFFSC.com. Facebook.com/HSFF Hour is where to reach us. And of course, you can email the show at highstakesfantasyfootball@gmail.com. If you have any questions for us, send them in now because we flipped the format a little bit this week. So we're going to get to emails coming up in just a few seconds here. Before we get to that, I want to thank our audio engineer and my best friend Bryce, and of course our producer and mutual friend Rob. If you hadn't noticed, the Never Too Early Best Ball Tournament has sold out. No more leagues in that. However, the 2022 FFPC Best Ball Tournament is live. Draft starting May 1st, right after the NFL draft. And the grand prize has doubled from $100,000 to $200,000. The prize pool is also nearly doubled. It's worth, we got almost $1.1 million in there. Week 16 and week 17 this year, 250 plus teams are going to divvy up $600,000 in cash. So it's going to be a very exciting tournament. $125 to enter. You can enter that in right now at myffpc.com. We also have some live pre-NFL draft dynasty leagues going on over the next several days. I think they end Wednesday. And then, of course, the post-NFL draft, slow drafts, maiden dynasties, those have 8-hour timers, anywhere from $77 all the way up to $1,250. Those are available, myffpc.com. We're also down to 2 dynasty orphan teams left, both selling at $1. Make sure you're grabbing those. Football Guys early bird promo is in effect. Sign up now before June 30th. Draft your team before July 15th. and you'll get a free $35 team added to your account. We'll do that up to 3 times. If you're willing to do it 3 times, we're willing to do it 3 times as well. FFPC main event this year. Get in on the early bird. $100 off your first team, $500 off each additional team. $1 million grand prize for the first time ever. That's exciting. Of course, not only plenty of slow, live, and sit and go best ball options at myffpc.com, plenty of best ball options as well as the Run to Daylight Championship available at kffsc.com. So check that out. Make sure you're jumping in the main event there too. Is it a record grand prize this year, Farrell, for the main event? I think it is, right?
Oh, it pales in comparison to some of the fabulous numbers that Dave and Alex have developed for us. But yes, our 20th anniversary this year, Balky, we will lead with a $25,000 main event championship, where our entry fee, if the listeners are not familiar with it, is $300.
All right, so there you go. So if you have not played Kentucky yet, obviously you can play online. Highly recommend getting to Cincinnati or especially Louisville, which I go to every year. So much fun to draft live at Caesars, Southern Indiana there. It is so much fun. So hopefully we'll see you in Louisville, and then we'll see you in Vegas coming up at the end of the summer. All right, so Farrell, you pointed this out. I can't remember. I think it was off air last week. We have just been running out of time to get to emails. I'm flipping it this week because I've ignored these people long enough. We're doing emails first tonight. Fantasy, it's all for the listeners. Fantasy feedback is kicking off the show for I believe the first time ever in the show's history. So we're going to kick things off with Lenny in Minneapolis right now, and he wants to know: should I roll with current Broncos tight end Albert Okwuegbunam or the former Broncos tight end Noah Fant this season? Noah Fant, obviously in Seattle. So let's just look at this from the perspective of a redraft. So I'm going to bring up the never too early best ball figures, and I cite this, and I always shout out Darren Armani, fantasymojo.com at fantasymojo on Twitter, who provides all this ADP for us. Albert Okwuegbunam, tight end 12 right now at the 902 in the never too early tournament, and actually Noah Fant's tight end 15 at the 1003. So you can get FFPC players are valuing Okwuegbunam higher than Fant, but Farrell, is he worth drafting a round earlier when you can get Fant around later?
I don't think he should be valued higher than Fant, but I don't have any problem with the value with Uncle Albert as a 10th round pick. He's in his 3rd year. He's coming in with Russell Wilson. And the thing about this player, he joined the league at 20 years old. He's only 23 right now. So he's just fantastic developing athlete. We've seen that the biggest problem the offense in Denver might be is how to keep everybody involved, how to keep everybody happy. There's a lot of names there that expect to catch balls. They're humble players. They haven't enjoyed the greatest of success at Denver, but they're expecting all to be Russell Wilson's favorite. And what does Russell Wilson do? With his legs, he extends the play. Tight ends catch a lot of balls when you go through the pass progressions and you finally get to them and see them. Russell Wilson sees them, but he believes he can run around, get Judy open, get Sutton open, get Hamler open. That might affect his play. You go out looking at Noah Fant. Noah Fant's been a 60-catch player for 2 years in a row. He takes his quarterback with him to Seattle. I believe people are sleeping on Fant. I think he's going a little too late. If you go back to, and everybody wants to talk about the quarterback, wants to talk about Drew Locke, and maybe he gets a new quarterback, but I don't think so. Drew Locke, if you go back to 2019, like we went down memory lane with Mitchell Trubisky, Locke was very, very successful in the limited play that he had that year. He had an offensive coordinator, as a quarterback coach at San Francisco now, Sangarello, something like that. They were very successful, but that OC was fired at the end of the season. Now Shane Waldron will be his guy, which we have celebrated on the show before, and I have talked ad nauseum about him. Shane Waldron's kind of in the same boat there with Drew Locke. How do you keep all those pass catchers happy? But I think Noah Fant continues to do well with this quarterback, and Waldron, Sangarello, they're very similar in their execution. I expect Noah Fant to continue to be a force at tight end in this league. So Uncle Albert's going where he should. Noah Fant should be going up around Dawson Knox, Freiermuth, that territory, because he's going to give you those kind of numbers. Oh, Bucky, you've gone and frozen up in such a beautiful, it's such a beautiful profile that we're catching there of you. It is fantastic. We haven't had this issue for a while, and hopefully you're hearing me. You can give me a text or something if you are. That maybe you froze up with too long of a tight end, but in the FFPC. You can't talk long enough about the tight ends. In this situation that you have, Uncle Albert, he doesn't have a lot of pass catching experience tight ends behind him. But I've often thought that Denver just might pull the trigger in the draft to find some more depth at the position behind him. Let me move on to a couple of other questions. There's been a commentary that we got in a previous email. I'm not sure where it came from. Kenneth Walker, running back, Michigan State, as opposed to Isaiah Spiller, who should be having the draft capital spent on them. Currently, it's Walker. When Balky returns, he'll tell us what Armani's mojo is on that. But I think what we could do here is turn to the people that watch college football for a living. Kenneth Walker won the Doak Walker Award, won the Walter Camp Award, and was the Big Ten Player of the Year. The Doak Walker is for the nation's top running back. The Walter Camp is for the Player of the Year, and Big Ten Player of the Year speaks for itself. Then he goes on to the combine where he turns in a 4.38. That was the third top speed. I think Bryce Hall ran a 4.38 as well. Isaiah Pacheco from Rutgers. I'm probably ruining that name. And Pierre Strong, a player that I've admired for a great time from South Dakota State. Those players ran a 4.37. So those players were faster, but it's hard to get faster than a 4.38 at the combine. Spiller did not run at the combine. Spiller, college football writers and people that follow college football found that he was an all-SEC player, albeit second-team SEC running back. Then when he did have his pro day, Spiller checked in at a 4.64. So you've got to think, and it appears Balky has returned.
I have. I'm sorry about that.
I've been going through Spiller and Walker comparison, if you haven't heard any of it, and I'm just about ready to finish up. I'll say this, Spiller, a 4.64, his agent, Rocky Arsenault, said that he had not had time to prepare due to a shoulder injury, and it's hard to prepare when your body is hurting. He doesn't seem to be engaged. He seems to be a little disinterested. One of the things I've noticed in watching the media, Balky, is especially on Good Morning Football, where a lot of rookie players are coming through the studio, both live and virtually, is that they're very engaged and they're very, very happy to be there. And it's been a blast watching them, and very articulate about what the NFL expects of them and what they wish to bring to the NFL. Spiller was an exception like that. And Balky, if you can't get excited talking to Kay Adams, you might be in the wrong business.
Yeah, that's true. And you've said that before, and I've always backed you up on that for sure. What's funny is I've always kind of, I tricked myself. I don't want to say I tricked myself, but I've always had an affinity for Isaiah Spiller from a fantasy standpoint, right? I thought he was pretty athletic. He caught a lot of passes in the SEC, which is always pretty valuable for me as I, look at what kind of running backs I want to add onto my dynasty roster. So I was researching it more because it certainly seemed like I was in the minority, right, in putting Spiller as my number 2 running back over Walker. And anytime I get that, I always want to investigate, like, well, what am I missing here? And I looked at it, and I know Kenneth Walker did not catch a lot of passes at Michigan State, which isn't necessarily a death knell, right? Jonathan Taylor didn't catch a ton at Wisconsin, and he was just fine. Melvin Gordon didn't catch a ton at Wisconsin. He was just fine. I had no idea, once I delved into the numbers, the relative athletic score and how elite of an athlete Kenneth Walker is blew me away. And I think at this point, to me, I'm kind of the opinion that he is my number 2 running back. I've joined the crowd. I'm on the bandwagon for Kenneth Walker as my number 2 running back in this class, and I'm dropping Spiller to 3. Now, here's the disclaimer. I reserve the right to change my mind based on landing spot, right? And we'll find out what the draft goes. But from a pure athletic talent standpoint, I'm on board with Kenneth Walker over Spiller.
I think our listener, the right question might have been Hall versus Walker, and then we could have debated.
Do you think it's that? See, I think Hall he is significantly better than Walker for me.
Yeah, he may be, but both of them, once they get to the NFL, we'll see where the development takes them. I think they both have unlimited potential and a very, very high ceiling. Spiller's going to have to surprise me because there's a lot of 4.6, 4.7, 40 running backs that have played in the NFL for years and can continue to play. He's going to have to take a job away from someone with that kind of speed.
Much as I'd love to keep talking rookies,
I
want to get to our guest right now, and I apologize. We'll get to more emails later on. But I'm going to bring in tonight's guest. He's played fantasy football for more than 2 decades. He played, started playing with the FFPC in high stakes leagues almost a decade ago. He's been competing in dynasty leagues at the FFPC, the Football Guys Players Championship, and of course the Football Guys in the FFPC Playoff Challenges. Over the course of his career, he's won more than $25,000 in prizes. Most recently, last year in the 1250 FFPC RotoViz TriFlex Superflex Dynasty League number 28, won that one. He says he's the FFPC everyman, or more of an FFPC everyman. I don't want to put words in his mouth. He's not. He has not changed his lifestyle to play in numerous and tons of leagues in the FFPC. But he says he's a committed hobbyist who loves the high competition, dabbles in pretty much everything when assessing players and building rosters, analytics, roster construction, film watching, NFL history, does it all. And he says he classifies himself more as a dolphin among the Sharks, which they can be pretty elite too. He's a constantly recovering hero to zero RB addict, and he's here to share his insight on numerous veteran players, as well as his plans for his 2022 rookie draft picks. Please welcome into the program, Mike Eisenberg. Mike, thanks so much for making some time for us tonight, man.
Hey guys, how's it going? Thanks for the intro.
Oh, well, listen, it sells itself, right? I mean, you just this is something that's exciting because to bring you on at a time when everybody's so rookie hungry, right? And we're thirsting after the rookies. But I think it's important to understand that Dynasty is a 365-day thing, and you shouldn't lose the veterans in that, especially the way that the veterans' value is going to change after we get through the NFL draft.
Absolutely. And it's funny, I've been probably listening to a lot of podcasts, yours included, and I just, tabulate the rookie stuff, but I haven't done any real diligence yet because it's all going to change in draft time. And I just don't find that a good use of my time. I'd rather just wait. And I generally focus probably more on veterans. I trade a lot of my rookie picks away, not all of them. It's not like I have to do that, but I do it quite a bit, actually.
Do you follow or watch college football at all during the season, Mike?
No,
nothing.
Not at all. It's good. I'm bringing all these folks in just from objective analysis. I have no real opinions on them. I will watch 5 or 10 minutes of videos on the top 20 players or so I can get a feel for what I see of them. But that won't happen until after the draft.
When you're not winning FFPC Dynasty leagues, what are you doing for a living, Mike?
Well, I'm a husband, father, grandfather, and I sell video games.
Video games?
Yeah, I do.
What was that? Roll that back, Bonky.
He's a grandfather that sells video games. That's the only part you need to know.
I don't believe any of this. This isn't a real thing. Nobody. We're going to have to test that.
Fair enough.
Some fact checkers.
I'll send you some pictures.
I need fact checkers. I need more people to talk to me about the fabulous Las Vegas Raiders, because every time I looked up during NFL free agency, and mind you, we're not over, but every time I looked up, I saw very interesting additions. And naturally, everyone wants to talk about wide receiver Adams, and that's what I want you to talk about. Not perhaps what Adams does. We know he's going to be great. We know Carr's going to be great with him. How does it affect the other players? namely Jacobs. And there's been a lot of additions, especially coming from New England, including a new fullback in the Raiders' backfield. And I'm sure you're up to date on that. Any of that you want to talk about, you certainly can. Josh Jacobs, to me, was a steady Eddie last year. And for best ball, I don't know if that's the kind of player he nationally won. But he put up good numbers. He scored good numbers. What's he going to do this year? Josh Jacobs.
Yeah.
Changes in the Raiders.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a great question because you could make the case for probably either side. I would say it's a net neutral to maybe slightly down for him. And here's my logic. First of all, Devonta Adams is going to make the offense better. And then Waller was out a lot of last year too. So you're getting two major weapons into the offense, which is only going to help Carr and the entire offense convert and score touchdowns. So I think that'll help Jacobs. I feel like he's one of the more I agree with what you said, Farrell, but I think he's still underrated though, because he had 52 receptions last year, which I was actually, when I was doing some homework and stuff.
Yep.
I was surprised it was that high. I knew he caught a decent amount of passes, but that was by far his career high. So my fear is that having Adams will cut into that because he's such a target hog. They have the shower narrative between him and Carr. So I think it's going to probably be pretty close, but I think it's going to be a net decline for him. The person I'm really interested in seeing is Hunter Renfro, who kind of also just had a great year last year. I just can't see that sustaining with Adams and Waller back.
I definitely agree with you with Renfro. Jacobs with scoring the ball, especially with the fullback addition of Jacob Johnson that I really, really like. That's been missing from this offense.
Yeah,
they had a fullback, but he was not the pounder that Johnson is. Can you see the Raiders being in the red zone more often, being more successful in the red zone with Jacobs running the ball?
Absolutely. And that's why I said you could look at it either way. He had 9 rushing touchdowns last year, which is pretty good. Right. But so, maybe gets to 12 or 15. But the other thing I thought was interesting is he had no receiving touchdowns last year, which on 50 receptions, you'd think he'd get a couple. So that's probably regression for the positive side. Yeah.
They all went to Renfro.
They did all go through Renfro.
Yeah. Currently in FFPC Dynasty startup leagues, Josh Jacobs is running back 19 off the board. He's going at the 409. That's right around he's going essentially right before David Montgomery and Aaron Jones. He's going behind Travis Etienne and Kenneth Walker. So those two, I guess Etienne's not a rookie, but the second-year player, Etienne and Walker, are going about a half round to a full round ahead of him. And then it's Josh Jacobs. Let's talk about DK Metcalf here because, speaking of Dynasty, this is a player that you want to get dialed in on because we've heard rumors of him potentially being traded because it looks like Seattle might be going through somewhat of a rebuild. We've also heard that Pete Carroll loves him. Well, Pete Carroll loves everybody, so I don't know how much we take that with a grain of salt. But at the same time,
except for Earl Thomas,
who might be making a comeback too, which is crazy.
Yeah, I saw that.
So it probably won't be in Seattle. So it's weird because they want to keep Metcalf, yet they haven't signed him to any kind of extension. So, Mike, as you look at this as DK Metcalf owner, what are you rooting for here? Do you want him to stay in Seattle, not knowing exactly what's going to happen in the near and distant future at the quarterback position there? Or would you like to see him get moved now, a team extend him, a team that's willing to give up draft capital and money for him so he's going to be a big part of the offense?
Yeah, another good question that could go either way. I will take a semi-stand on this one. I think I'd like him to stay, but I don't want Drew Locke to be the quarterback. So I was looking – he actually did 20% better with Geno Smith last year in the 3 games they played than he did with Russell Wilson, which I was surprised. And, he's such an alpha, both in personality, physique, and just the way he plays. They're going to feed him. So as long as the passing offense is at least moderate, I think he'll be just fine. So the other side, which obviously if he gets traded to somewhere like Kansas City, would much rather have that. But what happens if he gets traded to the New York Jets? I think that could actually be worse, me personally, than staying and playing with Geno Smith, or maybe they pick what's his name, Willis in the draft, or maybe they get Baker Mayfield. I don't know, but I just think the Drew Lock is the disaster scenario based on what he did with Sutton and just his general incompetence, I think, as a quarterback. So
No Drew Locke love.
None.
From Mike. A quarterback also that doesn't get much love, and I think he deserves more, appears to finally be the guy in New Orleans. This Jameis Winston. A guy he could be throwing to is Michael Thomas, who I've stayed clear in all formats. But what's the long-term dynasty thought on this player? Would you acquire him buy low because it's the time to do it? And where would he fit in upcoming first-year maiden dynasty voyages?
Yeah, that's another great question, Farrell. For me, I'm about a 50% owner of Michael Thomas. So you're asking you're not buying low for me. I've put in 2 years of pain and misery, and just the way his situation unfolded, it made it really hard. I couldn't do anything because you're waiting to see what's going to happen. The uncertainty, you're not going to trade him low. A guy who's been his first 4 years, he was never lower than 7th. So I was like, that's huge upside. And you know what? I've waited 2 years to see it again. I may go down burning, but I've got some really low ball offers, late first, maybe or early second. I'm not trading it for that. Not for that upside. I'd rather just see him to the end of his career, and if he flames out. But I agree with you, Farrell. Jameis is very underrated. He supports a lot of high wide receiver performers, and I feel good about it. I think he's going to be like Metcalf. He's got that alpha personality. He's going to be a target hog. So even if the offense takes a step back with Peyton gone, I still think Thomas is going to get fed. So I'm holding.
What's crazy about that, and I'm just looking at the Dynasty ADP startup. Michael Thomas is, I know he's 20. He just turned 29. So I know he's not exactly the youngest cat in the room, but Michael Thomas, wide receiver 43 in the 9th round. I mean, he's going after, no offense, Farrell, he's going after Chase Claypool, Gabriel Davis, Kadarius Toney. He's going before Brandon Cooks, Christian Watson. I mean, I would take a chance. Dynasty startup, Michael Thomas, wide receiver 43. I can get on board with that for sure. Mike, let's go to the chat room right now. Hudson Kern-Reeve, our resident Ivy League professor, wants to know who your top sell-high running back is. Is there a running back right now, as you look at the lay of the land, that you would say, you know what, this is a guy that his value is going to go down this year. I want to get him off my roster. I want to get what I can for him right now. Is there anybody out there for you like that at the running back position?
I think it's J.K. Dobbins. I've unloaded several J.K. Dobbins shares, and it's not because I don't think he's good. I just don't know if he's going to get the opportunity in Baltimore, and I feel like this is his last year. If he doesn't, his value is going to plummet 10 or 15 spots. So it's not that I don't like him as a player. I do. I think he's actually pretty good. I just don't know if he's going to get the opportunity in Baltimore.
Yeah, and it seems like Baltimore is always rumored to be, they're looking at this guy.
They're Melvin Gordon recently, and I was like, that was the final straw for me. I'm like, all right, now they're looking at Melvin Gordon too. And, when Gus Edwards was there, who, I guess is coming back from an injury, but he's just, he's that pounder who just takes so many touches away from Dobbins. So I was surprised that that they didn't use him more because he looked so good. Every time I watch him, I'm like, wow, that guy's really good, but they just don't give him the touches like I'd like to. So that would be my running back sell high.
Speaking of running backs, it's hard to sell high on Saquon Barkley right now. In fact, if you look at the Dynasty ADP for startup drafts, Barkley, a guy who just a year or two ago was like a top 3 overall pick, not only in Dynasty and redraft, he's tumbled the running back 12 at the 302. That's Dynasty right now. So as you look at Saquon Barkley, would you advise people who have him on their rosters just eat the loss and get rid of him, hold him, see what happens this year in that Giants offense, or maybe he gets traded? There's still that possibility. Or would you try to grab him at a discount right now off somebody else's team?
You're going through my roster and seeing all my devaluing players. Like I'm surprised you're not going to pull out Calvin Ridley soon too. That's another.
Oh yeah, let's go. Let's run the gamut.
Keep hitting me with all these. No, but it's funny. So again, I'm just going to tell you what I've done because I have a couple shares of Barkley as well. I've been trying to sell him for 2 years, and the value that he was being portrayed on expert sites and stuff was not what the market was. No one would trade him. I was trying play trades like J.K. Dobbins or Cam Akers at a first or something. Couldn't get any of that, and no one wanted him. So I just held based on the upside. Very similar to Thomas to me. I'm very interested to see what Dable does with him. Maybe they trade him, but I think they're going to hold on to him this year. He is a great receiver, although I would expect him to be more like 2019 Barkley if he comes back, which was, late RB1, not the number one, like he was in 2018. I just don't see that happening. I remember they were really force feeding him the ball every time. And I think it was Manning's last year. And we haven't seen that kind of target volume to him. So I'm going to hold and see what kind of upside he's got. He is a great enough receiver that he can probably last 2 or 3 more years at a productive level if he doesn't get hurt. And he's probably due not to get hurt after getting hurt so often in his first few years. So I'm a hold guy on that one.
If you want encouragement on that Barkley, NFL Network's been running some rookie showcases, well-known players from their rookie season, and the Giants were showcasing a Barkley game with. It was just fantastic. He looked like $1 million, and he's talking a good game. Yeah. And he's got a chip on both shoulders.
Yeah,
and he's ready to come back. So if there was ever a player that I would keep holding on to, that would be the guy, because this could definitely be the year. Help me with this. I am in a best ball, a small little self-contained 12-team league. I'm in the 3rd round, and I had the opportunity to take Akers at the 3-2, and I didn't do it. And it's not because Balky and I have talked about it before. I'm a believer in the other running back, Balky number 27, the kid from Batesville, Mississippi. What's his name? The other running back,
Darrell Henderson.
Yeah, Darrell Henderson. So I'm a big Henderson guy, although sometimes I forget his name. My point is, am I right about Akers? We saw so little of him last year. What do you do with him? And how do you like him? And I will point out that I watched this week the touchdown drive that won the Super Bowl for the Rams, and he was featured not only as a rusher but in the passing game. And he wasn't interfered with, and it wasn't called. But that's a whole other story. Akers, am I just? I'd like to know. I'd like some clarity on him for all formats. And then I'd like to tell me what you think of Darrell Henderson.
Well, it's funny. I like Darrell Henderson as well. I've had him in some, but he doesn't have a great market. I don't understand why they don't use him more. I feel like he's looked really good. Maybe he's just not up for the workload role, the workhorse role. Maybe that's McVay. But anyway, regardless, I'll answer the Akers question. I'm really torn on Akers myself as well. I've traded him away. I've acquired him based on the prices that I see. I'm not as concerned on the Achilles as everyone else seems to be. It seems like plenty of athletes are coming back from that. I know Foreman and Mack looked fine last year. He came back after 5 months. Didn't look great in the playoff run, although he did show flashes. But neither did Sony. I was looking at Sony Michel's stats. He didn't look too great either, and he's a pretty good running back. So, I think he's going to be fine. The one thing that I'm uncertain with him about is when he was healthy in year 1, he really didn't flash till late. So he looked kind of mediocre the first part of the year. And Henderson, I actually think, was the starter most of that year until the end of the year. That makes me a little concerned, more on that than it was the Achilles. So my gut tells me he's going to be fine, and he is a great prospect, and he'll do well, and he's shown flashes, and it seems like McVay believes in him, but I don't know that for sure.
You wouldn't spend a 3rd-round draft pick on him in a redraft.
Well, it depends on who's on the board, but I wouldn't jump at it. It would have to be.
Well, you know who's going to be there.
That's true. But, yeah. So who? Let me ask you another question. Who would be your next choice if it wasn't him?
I don't know, because I went all 3 receivers in the Kentucky way, where you must start.
You sound like me, Farrell. That's how I draft.
Exactly. I made the odd choice of stacking through 3 rounds, Tyreek Hill and Waddle, just to prove that it could be done.
Really? That was an interesting.
On the way.
I can tell you guys in the FFPC never too early best ball tournament, Cam Akers, running back 16. Right after him, the next running back on average going was James Conner out of Arizona, followed by Breece Hall, and then the guy we talked about earlier in Josh Jacobs. So that, and they're kind of going in a glut of like the mid to the late 3rd round there for the best ball tournament.
I would definitely pick Akers in front of those 3 or 4 people that you just named. So.
Yeah, I don't really. I mean, I guess like the FOMO in me is like, I'll take Breece Hall over Cam Akers just for the unknown. But yeah, I mean, I'd take him over Connor, I'd probably take him over Jacobs just because
Jacobs plays for the Raiders, right?
I understand that, and I probably yes, I'm well aware. I probably take him over Jacobs because, and I'll penalize Jacobs for his consistency because you want the spike weeks, and I think Akers is maybe a little bit more prone to spike weeks than Josh Jacobs. So if Jacobs, Farrell, if he could be a little bit more unreliable, I probably would take him.
There you go. We don't want that reliability.
Yes, we're going to spin it that way, and that's just. If only Josh Jacobs could not show up for work on time all the time and perform as well as he did, I'd be more prone to take him. Antonio Gibson, let's talk about him here a little bit. Mike, J.D. McKissic looked like he was going to Buffalo, changed his mind. He's going back to the nation's capital. So knowing that McKissic and Gibson are back for the Commanders this year, should we expect just another what we saw in 2021 of Gibson, or maybe a little bit more in 2022?
Yeah. I'd love it to be a little bit more in 2022. I just can't make the case to myself. McKissic's averaged about 6 targets a game over the past 2 years when he's played, and that's just capping Gibson's upside. I don't know how he would get more upside. Now, the one, again, kind of like what we talked about with Devonta Adams, I do think Carson Wentz, I hate to say this, but Carson Wentz is going to improve that offense versus the dredge they've had at quarterbacks the last 2 years. So I do think that could help Gibson maybe in some more scoring opportunities, but I don't think his receiving work is going to change at all. McKissic, they went and grabbed him. He was all but signed with Buffalo, right? And then they went and invested and brought him back. So I don't know why they would do that if they weren't planning on using him. So I don't have, as much as I have a lot of Gibson and I want him to have that upside, I don't think it's coming this year, unfortunately.
And McKissic can catch that ball, unlike our aforementioned Jacobs. He can catch that ball and find that end zone. Mike, I mean, this sounds like something I would do when I've had a little too much bourbon here. It would be to log on and join something called the $1,250 RotoViz TriFlex Superflex number 28. Anyway, what did I do? First of all, tell me what it is.
Yeah.
And then tell me what you like best about the format. And, obviously you're just out there looking for a challenge and to pay for some of those grandkids' college education. What's your grandkid's first name?
What's that? Lucas.
What's your grandkid's name?
Lucas, Patrick, and Owen.
He handled that pretty well.
You're trying to test me. That was good.
I guess it's a real thing. The RotoViz TriFlex Superflex is a real thing. How'd you win it? Why'd you join it? And what do you like about it?
I joined it. I've been trying to get into more Superflex because that's the trend. And I really like, I think having quarterbacks at the forefront of fantasy is really important. And I like that trend. And I think they've also evolved to make it so there's more ways you can build your team and have an impact. In the 1 QB league, which I do a fair amount of, and I still like it. If you're good enough or fortunate enough to get one of the top running backs or one of the top tight ends, you have such an advantage. It's really hard to beat that. But in the RotoViz format, there's 3 wide receivers in the starting lineup. There's 2 more flexes, so you could go up to 5 wide receivers if you want. 1 tight end, 1 QB, and then no defense or kicker. So it's a very progressive league in terms of the trends of fantasy football, and I really like that. And as a 0 RB guy, I have so many wide receivers. I really invested in the wide receiver team, which helped me win. I had Kyler Murray and then Gronk. Gronk came in. He's a scrap heap type of tight end with a lot of upside, and he actually helped me quite a bit this year.
He sure did.
Yeah. So it was. And the thing I love about that particular league is there's so many sharks in that league. It's some of the best players that I've come into contact with. So the Dolphin prevailed in this particular year. He outsmarted all the sharks. It made it much more. It was very satisfying to beat that crew of people, and it was a lot of fun.
The Dolphin reigns supreme.
Reigns supreme.
Congratulations on that. Dolphin looking to go back-to-back in the 1250 number 28. So good luck there. Couple of emails for you, Mike. Larry in Long Branch, New Jersey. Can you give me any insight into what I should be doing with Deebo Samuel in my dynasty leagues right now. This is kind of compelling stuff. I think the latest report, Ian Rappaport was on Pat McAfee's show and said he told the Niners specifically, do not offer me a contract. I just want out. Craziness. We saw what happened in Green Bay. I never thought I'd see the day Devonta Adams would be wearing a different jersey, and now he's in Las Vegas. And so anything's possible at this point. As a high stakes fantasy football owner who plays Dynasty, what advice would you give those players right now if they have Deebo Samuel?
Yeah, it's I'm going to be very consistent across the board. I don't think you can sell him now because you don't know what unless you're going to get fair value for him, which I don't know who's going to give you that with this uncertainty.
Right.
I think this could be a lot of noise. This is contract negotiations. It's wide receivers. Deebo wants to get paid. I understand why he's injury prone. He hasn't got paid yet, and he's playing a role that probably is going to put him quite a bit in Harmon's way. I think he had like 60 or 70 carries last year. So I think it's a lot of bluster. Me personally, maybe I'm wrong, but I'm going to hold. I have him in the league that I just won. I have him in that league. I'm holding him. I was looking at his stats. It's like 1,400 receiving yards. Even if the rushing goes away, he's still really, really talented. And he's such a, just such a, he seems to be the type of receiver the modern NFL likes, and I'm just going to hold on to him again.
And I'll say this too, like if you were looking, and again, this is a little speculation. We always say, listen, if you're wondering about a player in your league, ask that owner, like talk with that owner, because everybody values players differently. Yeah. But as far as you can tell right now, if you were to, in your FFPC dynasty leagues, if you were to go out and try to get Deebo Samuel, you don't expect that owner to give you much of a discount right now?
I don't think so. I think they're going to be like the Michael Thomas owner. It's just the people that are just, you're either in or you're out and you're holding on. And, it's too hard to get players like that. So when you have one, you gotta weather the storm, I think. And I will, even if I went up losing it, what are you going to trade them for? A draft pick, and then who knows what you're getting. So
yeah, it's true.
That's my approach, but everyone's different with that. So yeah, I was actually thinking about whether I should try and unload Samuel, and I decided not to. I want to hold on to
him. Didn't you get him rather cheaply?
I did. I thought I did. I don't remember exactly. Yeah, it was a good price, and I was real happy. And he helped me. He contributed to my championship as well.
Yeah. Guys, when you look at a situation of what's been taken away from that team, both in talent and in coaching talent, and a lot of things are changing with that team. Yeah. And, maybe he's a player that just doesn't want to live in a small place in California and pay a lot of money for it and pay a lot in taxes and have to carry the ball. And
you don't have to tell me that, for I'm leaving at the same spot. I'm going back to the Midwest in about a month and a half. So
we'll be glad to have you. And, at the end of the day, here's a player that everybody loves, the unique aspect of Deebo Samuel. And I had so many agents say this player could be a Deebo Samuel. And now I tell them, I say, Deebo Samuel doesn't even want to be Deebo Samuel. And so, we'll see. But I think this is a real thing about him.
Okay.
I don't think it's a negotiation tactic. That's my bet.
But maybe not, but are they going to trade him? It sounds like
if
I'm them, I wouldn't trade him. So,
well, you know what? You haven't watched any college football this year, but boy, Thursday night will be very exciting for you for your Deebo Samuel.
Yeah. What's the over under on how many times Deebo Samuel's name is mentioned on Thursday night?
Oh, wow.
I don't even know what you said it. 11, 12, something like that, maybe more. I don't know. One more email here before Farrell has one final question for you, Mike. This ironically is from Mike in Cleveland. Are you the type of dynasty player that likes to collect picks or trade them away for more proven assets? Congrats on the 2021 title. Mike in Cleveland, you kind of alluded to this earlier. I think you're more the latter, where you don't usually keep the dynasty rookie picks around, Mike. Why is that?
I just feel like I can get good value. I think they're overvalued in general. I mean, there's definitely the case that you could build I've seen some of the best teams I've ever seen are people who manage their draft picks well. I'm one a little probably more risk averse, so I like to cash in for a proven player if I can. And sometimes you can get great discounts on those players, like a Deebo Samuel. I just picked up Akers actually, and I got Juju with him for a draft pick. So again, people are really paying for those 23. I'm like, you know what? I want to keep it, but I don't. I have no first round draft picks this year on any of my dynasty squads. I was looking at that today. And part of that was concerted effort because I knew I believed that the 22 class was not going to be as great. It seems to be turning out that way, but you never know. Sometimes you take that leap, but it's not true. I think the year prior, they were saying the same thing. It was a great class. So, I like to cash in for proven players and, ones that are maybe a little undervalued and with draft picks that I think are a little overvalued.
Well, follow that up then. Give me one particularly that you want to get rid of, that you wouldn't want to have anything to do with. And someone you would be – so someone you want to sell and somebody you would want to buy low. And before you start that, I need a quick answer to this question. I'm looking for lots of help. Dynasty is new to me. I had a first-round pick, the 5th pick of the first round. I traded him for Michael Pittman. Nobody will tell me that I did the right thing. Well, did I do the right thing, Mike?
For a rookie 105?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think that's great. I think Michael Pittman's arrows pointing.
I don't have to ask anybody else again. Okay, so the two players. Who are the two players?
Okay, well, I'm about to commit fantasy FFPC heresy with my sell candidate. And that's Mr. CD Lamb. He's a very good player. So again, kind of like Dobbins, I feel the same way. He's the number 3 wide receiver. He's been 2 years. He's been a late late wide receiver 2 twice. The situation, he's had a good situation where, he's had some injuries to some of his contemporaries. He's had Dak Prescott healthy. I just don't see it. I just don't understand why he's so high. I'd rather have if you look at ADP, you could probably get like a Stephon Diggs in a first rounder or Tyreek Hill in a first round. I'd much rather would have that. And I actually traded him last year. My only share of him, I traded for Devonta Smith and Antonio Gibson, one of our favorite discussion. And I'm really happy with Devonta Smith was only 10 slots behind him last year as his rookie. And I feel like he can equal CD Lamb, and then I get Antonio Gibson on top. So I was really happy with that trade. So again, I just think it's a good player that's way overvalued. I'm not sure I'm understanding why. That's why I'd be selling him.
Is there a player that you don't understand why he's being undervalued right now? Like anybody out there, like, man, I gotta get this guy in my squad.
There is a player. I understand why he's undervalued. I just don't agree with it. And that's Brandon Cooks.
Oh yeah.
And I also was thinking Mike Evans, and it's basically the same phenomenon, which is 28-year-old wide receiver, 29-year-old, but they're like 20 slots versus their performance versus their ADP. Brandon Cooks I think was the wide receiver 44, and I was looking on and he's been the number 11 in points the last two years combined, if you combine those 2 years. So, that's how, when I've had success, it's getting the wide receiver 2 in my 4th flex spot and 3rd flex spot. And Brandon Cooks is the type of player that would really drive those positions for me.
Yeah.
So he's the type of, Mike Evans would also fit.
Yep. And the player that really drives the type of viewership and listenership to this show is indeed Mike Eisenberg, the champion of the 1250 Dynasty number 28 RotoViz TriFlex Superflex, $25,000 winner in his FFPC high stakes career. Thanks so much for popping aboard tonight. Good luck with the move back to the Midwest, where we just love living here. Obviously, yes. It's going to be great. And good luck this season. Enjoy the NFL draft and enjoy your Dynasty rookie drafts coming up for the picks that you still have in those leagues. And good luck in all your leagues this year, man. This is a treat. Thanks for joining us.
All right, thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Take care.
Mike Eisenberg, ladies and gentlemen. The great stuff from him. With, I think a lot of people think that. I think just the disclaimer is, oh, you want to play Dynasty football, you got to know rookies and you got to do all this research into rookie picks and rookie drafts. Well, Mike's living proof of what, the hell with it. You guys take my rookie picks. I'll take the proven players. And now he wins these leagues doing just that, Farrell. A million different ways to win.
Yeah, well, he could be the general manager of the Los Angeles Rams. It's the same philosophy.
Yeah. Blank them picks.
Yeah,
Blank them
don't
picks.
need them.
No, absolutely. Are you of the same? Because I know you're obviously, you got a couple years in for Dynasty fantasy football now, right? Under your belt? 1 year. Okay. You share his philosophy on Brandon Cooks? in Houston?
Yeah, I like Brandon Cooks everywhere because I like his quarterback. I like the fact that they're going to lose a lot, need to throw a lot. They're going to need to be competitive. I like the coaching staff. I like everything about it.
I like that we have some time yet to answer some more emails.
Ooh,
So let's go back to it. We don't talk quarterbacks a whole lot on this show, but ironically, Mike is moving back to Illinois. So let's go to Illinois. Jared in Summit, Illinois. Dear Balky and Farrell, now that Tom Brady's back, I'm considering moving him ahead of Matthew Stafford on my draft board. Is that a wise move given the new head coach in Tampa? Appreciate what you do, guys. That's Jared in Summit, Illinois. I think the report I saw like right away when Bowles took over, and Farrell, you probably know this better than anybody. It always seems like when new coaches get hired or new OCs in place, what do they always say? Oh, we're going to run the football. We gotta establish the run. We're going to put our dominance on the field. We're going to run the football. And even Matt LaFleur in Green Bay, who I love, obviously, he'll pound the ball with Jones and Dillon successfully for a quarter, and then he just goes away from it. I don't understand it. And I think when the real bullets start flying out there, a lot of times the run just gets abandoned. Tom Brady threw it a ton last year. He's going to throw it a ton this year. Brady and Stafford are fairly close for me. I have no problem if this guy likes Brady better than Stafford. Go ahead and do it. I think they're both going to put up good numbers again this year.
It's not really a question that matters. He at the end of the day, he could flip a coin. These are elite quarterbacks that are at the top of their game in different ways. However, both of them share the fact that they are surrounded by elite athletes. Now, if we're talking Dynasty like we have talked so much, both players let's talk about the Rams from a Dynasty perspective. Any Ram that you have, if you believe in team building around that player, you might assume that the Rams have spent a lot of money in free agency since they don't have a lot of draft picks. But the Rams were the 30th team in payroll last year, even though they won the Super Bowl. Only two teams spent less than the Los Angeles Rams did. Now, they must catch up to their number, and they have over 3 years to do it, and that's conversation for another day. But my point is that from a dynasty perspective, the Rams have an opportunity to continue to build the kind of franchise that they already have. But both these, I don't know, flip a coin on these guys. You'll be happy that you did, whichever way it lands.
And right now I can tell you this: Brady is actually about a half round ahead of Stafford in the Never Too Early tournament. That Brady about middle of the sixth, Stafford end of the sixth, right there. So flip a coin. Yeah, you know what I'm going to say is I'm going to wait. And I'll just, if I'm dead set between these two guys, I'll just take the guy who's left when it comes to me, and I'll be happy. And I'll tell you this: I'll have a ton of Brady. I'll have a ton of Stafford this year for sure, no doubt. Another question from the chat room: Hudson Reeve wants to know where we personally rank Joe Burrow among quarterbacks this year, where you and I, Farrell, have Joe Burrow in our quarterback rankings. And I'm just looking at it right now. I would have him behind Allen, Mahomes, Herbert, Jackson. And then I think I would probably put him 5 on that list. I would take him ahead of Kyler Murray. I'd probably take him ahead of Tom Brady, although that's pretty close. And I'd take him ahead of Dak Prescott. That's where he is for me, is 5.
I might take Prescott in front of him. I've been playing so much of this best ball that I can't get my head out of it. I think in a redraft league, what I would do is go earlier quarterback and get one of the guys that you mentioned, Balky, or go later. So I don't see myself owning a lot of Burrow, but that was not the question. I rate Burrow exactly where you're rating him. And in the back of my mind, there's always that vicious bounce back year of Super Bowl disappointment.
The Super Bowl hangover. The Super Bowl loser hangover. Yeah.
And so I don't necessarily think that's going to happen with this team, but it always could.
And Hudson says his ranking is just like ours. So great minds, hopefully. We're thinking like Ivy League professors. That's what we want.
Like
to do.
that.
All right. Final email I have tonight. It's from Billy in Brentwood, New York. Do you guys, and I actually have I have a fairly strong take on this. Do you guys think Treylon Burks or Drake London is going to make the better pro? Have a great weekend. That's Billy in Brentwood, New York. Okay. So Burks, and I think I brought this up on the show, a lot of people up here in Northeast Wisconsin want Burks as a Packer because they do see a lot of Deebo Samuel in Treylon Burks. Now, I don't think he is Deebo Samuel. I think you have to use him properly. I don't necessarily know if whoever drafts him is going to use him that way. Here's what I'm sure of, and I'd probably stake just about anything you want on this. I think there's almost no way Green Bay takes Treylon Burks in the first round. If you look at Brian Gutekunst, what he's done in the first round since he's taken over the GM for Green Bay, he's really high on athletic freak type guys. You know, Darnell Savage, Rashawn Gary, Eric Stokes, all these guys. Treylon Burks' relative athletic score, 8.5, I think is really good. Treylon Burks didn't even crack 6. And he didn't have a good combine. So I am totally down on Burks. Not that I love London so much better, but I'm really nervous about Burks as a pro, Farrell.
I think you should be. Let's talk about Brian Edwards, a Raider. There's the same kind of athleticism and the same size of player and the same type of disappointing 40 at the combine. A big body running a 4.55. The play speed is faster on Burks. I think we can agree to that. I don't think he's a first-round receiver. I think he's a very good player given the opportunity, as we've talked about so often, to land in the right place. Let's talk about London. London is a player that has had to overcome adversity, and it's probably a needed thing for him to humble him somewhat. I think he'll come to the league as a better teammate and a better player before. He hasn't ran a 40 either, and he never had. Because of his injury, he hasn't had any opportunity to prepare for it. But I'm willing to give him a pass because of what we saw in a pro-like body to move out on the field. You know, everybody talks – we have a good laugh about Claypool. London is the same kind of player when he runs out on the field for warm-ups. You say, man, who is that? And so both these players should have – significant opportunities to have very big NFL careers. London, something about him looks typical prototype NFL ready with where we're going with big physical receivers. And so I think based on landing spot, of course, that this could be a big red zone player from day one.
Yes. And so I guess to answer the emailer's question, I am much more nervous about Treylon Burks than I am with Drake London.
Yes.
So I think Drake London does make the better pro going forward. Okay. So let's do one other thing because we kind of teased it at the start. Let's talk about Rashad Bateman just briefly. Okay. BaltimoreRavens.com had a report, a quote from Bateman saying that he's way more comfortable, way more relaxed. His words, not mine, going into his second season. He says he knows what to expect. He knows how to move. He's excited for this year. The health was Rashad Bateman's question last year. He missed some time in training camp. First 5 games of the rookie season, he sat out because of a groin injury. When he came back, he still got 46 catches, 515 yards, and a touchdown in 12 games, 7 of those games with Lamar Jackson. Now, Mark Andrews is going to have a lot of volume this year. Marquise Brown is obviously factoring into that. And I think we talked about this with John Terry last week. I could be wrong. I think it was with John Terry last week when we talked about Rashad Bateman versus Marquise Brown. But Bateman, Farrell, in the Never Too Early, wide receiver 48 by Christian Kirk, Rondale Moore, and Robert Woods. And again, at that point in the 11th round, I guess you could go for the higher upside, like a guy like Bateman or Kirk who got the big deal, or even Robert Woods who, put up big numbers, although they might be neutered a little bit in Tennessee. But Bateman in the 11th round, I have no problem with it. I don't necessarily just know if I'm targeting him there.
I don't know if I'm targeting, but if I have Lamar Jackson in best ball, then I want to get Bateman in the 11th round. And this is a quote, this is a rare media report where you've got a lot of good quotes from the player. And what he's telling you is not only was I a little bit behind mentally in being a rookie, but I couldn't get my body to do what I wanted it to do. And you could see that at times because he never really flashed during the season. If he gets an opportunity to be physically capable of being a better player, then we should see it in this offense. And Andrews is fantastic here. There really needs to be less Andrews. We love it as fantasy players, but Andrews is just, I don't know. I don't know if he can carry that load. He's been shackled by a lot of responsibility with this team. Lamar Jackson needs to stay in the pocket, be comfortable in the pocket, and unload the ball. Hopefully Bateman provides that for him.
Hopefully we've provided the listeners and the viewers tonight with some good analysis. And much thanks to you, Farrell, for hanging out. So Kentucky Fantasy Football State Championship. Obviously, we got the Draft Masters going on. The Run to Daylight Championship is also going on right now. Is that the big one that you want to send people to right now?
I do. So it's been a little bit of a tepid response, and I looked at the dates. We may have mistakenly put the dates in front of the draft. The ones after the draft are filling quickly, so perhaps that's where we can direct the listeners to, and we'll be moving. We have to have 8 divisions to get to our top 2 finishers to be added to the Sweet 16, which is what we largely call the league. It's an exciting 96 team, $200 entry fee, $5,000 grand prize. So it's a good thing to take a couple shots at and get your skills honed for the upcoming season. And Balky, you've had success at it. I love giving that trophy to Balky, so I look forward to you coming back and play.
Absolutely. And this year, from last year, you'll be giving the trophy to former guest of this show, the one, the only Kevin Williamson, who won it last year.
Yes.
So
the old
keeping it in the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour family, which is all I care about. maybe I'll get it back this year, and we'll go 3 in a row for HSFF Hour.
Now you're talking.
Farrell, thanks so much, man. We'll check all the games out at KFFSC.com. Follow you on Twitter at JFarrellElliott, at KFFSC. Be good. We'll do this again next week, man.
See you
Next Wednesday.
Aha.
Next Wednesday.
Yeah.
We'll be doing the show. I'll tell the listeners a little bit about that. Be good. We'll talk to you soon.
Very good.
Farrell Elliott, ladies and gentlemen, the commissioner, the boss, the head honcho over at the Kentucky Fantasy Football State Championship. Okay, so housekeeping. Let's clean things up here. Thanks to Mike Eisenberg for coming on tonight. Thanks for Farrell Elliott for co-hosting. Thanks to the FFPC, Rob Bryce, and of course, each of you who have been watching and listening, no matter if you're watching live or downloading, streaming later, what have you. We appreciate it. If you want to like and subscribe, I should get my daughter on. She always says this all the time. If you want to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell, that always helps us. We'll be able to do some cool things. The more subscribers we get with the FFPC on YouTube, we'd appreciate that. As I just said, we will be back on Wednesday. We're not doing a show next Friday because, let's face it, we're all watching the NFL draft next Friday night. So we'll be back Wednesday, 10/9 Central. Our guest will be 4-time FFPC Dynasty winner Steve Paratori. Will join us. He'll talk a little bit about the rookies. He'll talk a little bit about his dynasty philosophy as well. The 2022 FFPC Best Ball Tournament grand prize and prize pool got doubled this year. $200,000 grand prize, over $1 million in the prize pool, and it's just $125 to enter. Those drafts start right after the NFL draft ends on May 1st. Live pre and slow post NFL draft dynasty startups are available at myffpc.com. 2 dynasty orphans left. Make sure you're scooping those up. myffpc.com/dynasty for sale. The Football Guys early bird promo. Remember, what a week away from Football Guys drafts as everybody chases the grand prize there, and you can get a $35 team added to your account when you draft. Buy the team by June 30th, draft it by July 15th. And of course, we're awarding $1 million for the grand prize in the 2022 FFPC main event. $100 off your first team if you get in on the early bird. That'll also enter you into the Pros versus Joes drawings to see if you can compete for a free FFPC main event team for next year. So make sure you're getting in on that, and $500 off each additional team there. Plenty of slow, live, and sit and go and best ball options, not only at myffpc.com, but at kffsc.com, where the Run to Daylight Championship is going on there as well. Thanks so much for listening. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. We really appreciate it. And I guess there's nothing else to say, but officially your weekend starts now.